Hi everyone, today we are going to create a repeat pattern using a diamond layout. If you've never used a layout before, you may not know that it makes pattern design so much easier and builds in a beautiful flow into your patterns. This process is super easy, so even if you've never made a repeat pattern before, you can definitely follow along with this tutorial. But of course, if you've made some patterns before, you're going to pick up some tips about how to use layouts to make better patterns and to work faster. The layouts really help beat that blank page moment where you don't know what to draw. So this is going to be one of those tools you have in your pattern making toolbox that helps you make better patterns faster. So I'm starting out here in Procreate. I'm going to click the plus symbol, new canvas, and I'm using the size 1500 by 3000 pixels. You can work at any size you want here. I like this size because you can work vertically and then put the two blocks beside each other if you ever need a square. So that's the reason I like to use this size. So 1500 by 3000. I'm getting a color. I always like to sketch in colors just to make my canvas a little bit more fun to work with and easier to see the various layers. I'm going to click the Actions menu, Canvas, turn on the drawing guide, edit drawing guide, and grid size all the way up so that I have this nice little plus symbol to help guide me. Then I can just use the sketching pencil, and this is the sketching pencil from the Everything Bagel brush set that I made for you. You can get that right below this video, no cost to you. And I'm just using quick lines, so draw and hold, and that gets you those nice straight lines. So if you want to be super organized at this point and rename your layer, you can do that. I don't actually name my layers, I just use colors instead. So do whatever works for you here. So now we can just start filling in some fun shapes for our repeat pattern. So what I love to do is use Flickr Commons. I have many galleries on Flickr Commons, and if you sign up for the Everything Bagel brush set below this, you get access to all of my galleries. Just to give you a peek at those, you're going to find a huge list of, some of these have 50 to 100 images in them, and they're grouped in various groupings that have made sense for me over the years, but I think you'll find a lot of interesting stuff in there. So I'm going to give you a link to that when you sign up for the Everything Bagel brush set. I'm going to be pulling from my fruit gallery here, and I'm just looking for some kind of image that has some interesting curls on the leaves, maybe some interesting shaped fruits. So I recommend you do that. I'm going to get this big, juicy looking peach, I think we see here. Going back to Procreate, swipe up, pull Chrome over here. Or if you want to go offline, I guess you could download or screenshot this image. That's another cool thing about Flickr Commons is that you can download images full size from the original book, and then you've got this nice high quality reference image to work with. So starting out with my geometric shapes, I always start building a pattern with geometric shapes. I think a lot of people I see start a pattern very granular, like going down to the very granular level of like, I'm going to put all the curls on this leaf. And it's like, you don't even know where that leaf should be until you've drawn in the basic shapes. So that's why I always start with just some big like triangles, circles, squares, things like that. That helps you just map out your canvas. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just drawing in my fruit shapes, drawing in all of the various leaves and where I think those might go. And then we can do some detail work later on. You can see I'm going outside my diamond a little bit. You don't have to stay within your diamond. You can always peek outside of that. So I'll take just a minute to do that. So now that I've done the rough geometric version of that, I'm just going to reduce the opacity of those layers and then repeat the same process, just adding in a little bit more detail. So a little bit of wobble to those peaches, and my peaches kind of need that interesting little lump side that peaches have. So I'm going to be adding that in. And then I'm going to be adding just a little bit of detail to the leaves. And each of these I'm doing on its own layer in case I want to go through later and erase some little parts. So I'll repeat this same process with all of these pieces. And you will notice here that I'm working to overlap a lot of these, and I'm making sure that no one bunch is always on top or always on bottom. They're all interwoven, one on top of the other, here and there, mixing, matching who goes on top of who, so that we're really getting an interesting composition. We don't want to, get boring here with our composition. We want the viewer to constantly be surprised. So I feel pretty good about that part of the diamond, but now I need to flip my diamond around so I can work on the other part. So what I like to do here, I always preserve layers. I don't want to lose anything. So I'm going to select everything, press group, duplicate the group, and then make that first one invisible. That is my original. I'm not going to mess with that. Who knows if I'm going to want to use it. Then I can just pinch to merge that duplicate, get all those layers onto one, fill up a new layer with pure white by just double tapping on white, tapping on the layer, and tapping fill. So now I just have like a white piece of paper, a sketch on top of it, and I can merge those together. So what you should have here is a pure white layer that has a sketch on it. So I'm going to duplicate this. So I've got 4 total. Tap the move tool, turn on snapping down here in the snapping section, and pop these little guys all up into their corners. So if you've never made a repeat pattern before, this is a fun little exercise to figure out how to get that repeat to fit together. So this is cool. We've got this really interesting negative space that we get to fill up using the exact same process that we used before. So there's really no surprise here, but what I am going to do this time around, I'm not going to do my geometric shapes as much as I did last time. I'm just going to dive in. But I am looking at this. I've got a peach right here. So I don't want to put another peach right beside it, because then we're just going to have this boring right across the page situation. I don't have one here, so that's a good spot. And what if we had 2 together? So that's going to surprise the viewer. We've got 1, 2. Get that freehand selection tool, select this first one, turning off snapping, and I just want to play with the placement of this. What if it was a little bit higher, like that? That's a little bit better. So this is where you just get to play. You want to figure out what is the ideal placement that creates visual interest, that keeps the viewer guessing, and doesn't feel too redundant. I think 3 is enough there. I'm happy with that. New color, new layer. Put some more leaves in. And I'm going to repeat the same process, focusing on interesting overlapping, focusing on getting these leaves to go over and under in an unexpected way so we don't have anything that, looks like it's all shooting in one line, for example. So the most important thing here is that we don't touch the edge of the canvas. I'm never touching the edge. I'm just going straight to the edge of the diamond, and I can go outside my diamond a little bit. I'm not so worried about my layout being the 100% rule that I always stick to. It's more important that you have an interesting composition. Whether or not you stay in your diamond doesn't matter as much. So now that we've finished sketching this pattern, once you're totally happy with your sketch, it's time to ink up this repeat. Before I do that though, I do like to check the pattern. So I'm going to click share, JPEG, save image, and just insert a photo, pop that image in there. So I just basically inserted the JPEG that I just exported, and making sure that snapping is on. Just going to pop that in the corner and duplicate 4 times. What this allows me to do is just get a bird's eye view of my pattern so that I know exactly what might be missing, what doesn't look quite right, what looks out of order, any weird holes or negative spaces. Of course, we are trying not to look at the diamond. Ideally, I guess you could put that diamond on a different layer, but I think we can pretty much get the gist here. We've got some various shapes. I think we've got a lot of nice angles. I'm pretty happy with this, but of course at this point you could do some adjustment on your repeat if things don't look right to you. Everything looks good to me, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of my sketch, create a new layer, and start inking. So this is a good time to choose a color. Maybe you just want to stick with the standard colors of, what peaches are actually colored. I'm going to grab my rough inking worn texture, and that's again from the Everything Bagel brush set. And I'm just going to really loosely fill these shapes. This is one style of pattern making that I would consider like a block print style. So if you like block print style, you might like this. If not, of course, if you have a different style that you like to use, this is a good time to just play around with that. So I'm going to repeat this same process, filling up anything on this part of the canvas that is not touching the edges. If something's touching the edges, I'm going to wait and do that when I flip my canvas around. So we'll meet back up when we flip our canvases around. As usual, I'm doing new color, new layer. Always making sure anytime I put a new color, even when I'm sketching, that it goes onto a new layer. And when it comes to these leaves, I'm going to do these in 2 pieces here so we can show the vein of the leaf in this way. So that's something you can do if you want to create your repeat in the same kind of style that I'm using. So I filled in all the parts that are not currently touching the edge, and I'm just leaving that little bit of gap for the veins and that little bit of gap for anywhere that's overlapping with each other. And so now we need to move our repeat blocks around so we can reach the other parts of this pattern. But I don't want to merge everything because I want to retain the ability to change my colors. So rather than merging everything, I'm just going to create a new layer below these 2 colored layers that is pure white. So it could be pure white or you could make it any color here. The point is that we need a color. Let's just do pink for the sake of it being really easy to see. I'm going to group all 3 of these colored layers that you can see and duplicate them 4 times. So I've got 4 of those. Tap the move tool and you can see here that it doesn't always perfectly snap if you're not zoomed in closely enough. So you can zoom in as closely as you need to see that the blue dot is in the very center. And once you press the move tool, this weird little extra border goes away. I have to admit to you guys that I don't normally finish off my repeats in Procreate. I vectorize all my repeats. So this is a process I'm doing for this video just to show you all a really quick and easy way to make a pattern. However, when you get into monetizing your patterns, you'll find that it's actually easier to have them as vectors because it's really easy to resize. So if you're like, what are you talking about? What does that even mean? I have a blog post all about it so you can learn more. So now we've got all the parts of our color in 4 different places here. The only missing piece is the actual repeat sketch that we did. So you can do the same process with the sketch. I guess you could just put the sketch in the folder with the pieces that we moved around. I've seen people do this 500 different ways, so I'm not going to tell you guys that there is one perfect way to do this. But, you know, as you make more and more patterns, you're going to develop a way that you like to do it. And I think it's a good idea to just try everybody's ways of doing it, see what you like, and go from there. So basically now we've got our sketch and we've got all of our colored layers on different layers. So if you want to go ahead and merge your colored layers, just swipe. I'm swiping the 3 backgrounds, merging all those together, swiping all the oranges, or I guess they're peaches, merging all those together, and same process with the leaves. The cool thing about that is now we have everything on one nice happy layer, and it's really easy to change colors when we get to that part of the process. So same process, different part of the repeat, filling in all of these little parts. And there we have an inked repeat pattern. So I'm going to make my sketch invisible. I'm going to tap on the background layer. I like to start by coloring the background layer and then work my way up to smaller details, making sure color fill is on here. That way you can just go through and play with various color ideas. I kind of like that blue. So let's stick with that for now. Let's do the leaves. I think that's the next largest area. And remember that your patterns don't have to be reality colors. You know, this doesn't have to reflect reality. It just has to be a pleasing palette. So I'm kind of loving mustards right now, but I like this blue too. Let's start with the blue and then let's revisit the peach color. Maybe that could be something a little more interesting. So this is why I like using that color fill option, because I go through color ideas really fast. I like to just fly through it like that. I like this. Ooh. So now we're at a point where we could add something else, you know? What if we just added some little dots to break up this pattern? And I'm doing this, of course, on a new layer, new color, new layer. That is the mantra. So we can just do some cute little things. And this is a blender. This is a blender pattern that could go with some of your more complex repeat patterns. This is a perfect, quick and easy project to do in the doctor's office or wherever you're waiting. I think you guys can see how it's fun to start with the diamond because you get this interesting geometric layout and you're kind of using our, natural interest in geometry, and, geometry's all over nature. So we naturally just have this propensity to prefer geometric shapes. So when you include that in your patterns from the very base, you're already starting off on a good foot. So I'm pretty happy with this pattern. Of course, this is the point where we can check it by share, JPEG, save image, add, insert a photo, pop it in here. And same thing we've been doing, making sure snapping's on, repeat 4 times, and zooming in to make sure it's It's really getting in there. This is why I don't make my repeats in Procreate, guys. This honestly takes a lot more time than working with vectors, and I want to show you why, because some people are going to be like, no, vectors are really hard. They truly aren't once you get your process down, and I have a really quick and easy process for working with vectors that I want to show you here. So putting these in place, checking my repeat, and then obviously we want to make some awesome color versions, right? Look at Procreate not wanting to work. Okay, so cool repeat. That would be an awesome Instagram story. Save that, share it with me so I can see your repeat. I want to see what you guys made. But before we close out, I just want to show you why I like to make my repeats in Affinity. So I do this exact same kind of process, drawing in Procreate and then converting to vector and putting it in Affinity. What is so nice about that is how you can change color and see the preview as you work. So just look over here on the preview. I'm just flying through color changes. And, the main reason I do this is so that when a client says, I want a gigantic image, I can just resize it and send it to them because vectors are infinitely scalable. So if this is all sounding very confusing to you, read the blog post that I'm linking below this video so you can learn more about that. And of course, you can ask me questions about that in the comments. Please remember to share these with me, you guys. I absolutely love seeing your artwork. So you can tag me on Instagram at LizColorBrown, share your color versions with me so I can see all of the versions you created. And now it's question time. This is a question by ABD320 who says, hi Liz, I have a question regarding Adobe Illustrator. Do you ever use that for surface pattern design or only other things like Procreate? I'm currently learning AI and I'm wondering how necessary it is to pursuing a career in surface pattern design or what the advantages are as opposed to other things. Thanks. I'm happy to answer that question, and I love talking about different apps that you can use on your iPad to make artwork. I kind of use them all, but when it comes to making my patterns, I really just finish my patterns off in Affinity Designer. And funny you ask, because I have a whole blog post about that where I detail all of the various features of Affinity, Procreate, and Adobe Illustrator so that you can see all of the different pros and cons of each one, which will probably help you make the decision what's right for you, because different apps are going to be right for different people depending on the type of artwork they make and the type of final product they like to produce. So check that out, putting a link to that below this video to answer all your questions about apps. So let's finish up by looking at these color versions I created. Here is a mustard peach. Here is a kind of dark night feeling, some bold and sunny feeling, and then more of a monochrome look. I always recommend going through and creating a lot of different color versions. It can completely transform your pattern to create new color versions, so it's never a waste of time to do that. So I hope you all enjoyed this project. I can't wait to see your artwork that you created from this tutorial. Remember to share it with me on Instagram, and I will see you there. Bye.